Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I will now call to order the November 15th, 2022 policy session of the Phoenix City Council. We'll begin with a roll call.
Councilwoman Ansari.
Here.
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilwoman Guardado.
Here.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Here.
Councilwoman Stark.
Here.
Councilman Waring.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pastor.
Here.
Mayor Gallego.
Here. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll begin with council information and follow-up requests. Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few items that I would like to share with everyone. We will be having some really exciting events in District 5 this week and next. This Thursday, November 17 at 4 p.m. at La Pradera Park, we will be joining staff from Parks Department and volunteers from the West Plaza Neighborhood Association, Alhambra Elementary School District, and ASU to plant 50 new shade trees. Then on Friday, November 18 at 6 p.m., we will be hosting another movie in the park at Homestead Park. We will be featuring the movie Encanto for our neighborhood families as we continue to reactivate the park. I am excited to again be hosting this year's Pavoton or turkey giveaway this Saturday, November 19, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I know there's a lot going on that day, different people giving out turkeys, but in District 5, we're going to be at the American Family Fields of Phoenix. It is going to be a great family-friendly event where we will be giving out over 1,000 turkeys. There will be entertainment and fun things for children to be doing and activities. And we will have resources for our families. Parking for everyone will be off 54th Avenue south of Indian School. Special thanks to La Indiscreta FM, the Milwaukee Brewers, and our Parks and Recreation team that has done an amazing job helping us with this layout. And finally, if you want to keep a healthy balance this holiday season, please join us on Saturday, December 3rd for the inaugural Cartwright 5K Turkey Trot. The route will be on the newly revitalized 55th Avenue Promenade between Camelback and Indian School Roads, where our Parks and Streets teams have planted over 200 new shade trees and placed a great new paved walking path. After pandemic-related delays, we are so happy this race will finally be happening as we continue to encourage our youth to be active and stay healthy. We hope our city staff and all of our residents enjoy the Thanksgiving holidays next week with their friends and loved ones. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Guardado. We'll go next to Councilwoman Ansari, and I believe she has a PowerPoint.
Thank you, Mayor. District 7 had a busy end of October and early November that included hosting a couple of major events and working with community members to form a concrete list of action items to tackle issues around 51st and Baseline. And go ahead, just go to the second slide, please. I'm calling in right now from Egypt, representing Phoenix at the United Nations 27th Climate Conference, which is commonly referred to as COP27. I've had the opportunity to meet with representatives from other cities, nonprofits, and companies around the world to hear about successes and commitments to addressing climate change, and specifically have been able to learn quite a bit about some of the work that other cities are doing on heat mitigation, transportation, green buildings. Just this morning, evening my time, spoke on a panel with mayors and local leaders from Santiago, Chile, Monterrey, Mexico, and Hobart, Australia, all cities that are facing historic droughts, to present some of the impressive work that our city has done to continuously lower our per capita water usage, even as we grow exponentially. Next slide, please. This past month, we were all over the district. In Estrella, we launched an informal steering committee for Santa Maria Park improvements, partnered with NFL Green and the Super Bowl host committee to plant 57 trees at Sunridge Park. In Levine, we attended multiple community cleanups, coffee with a cop, and had several internal meetings, again, specifically around 51st Avenue and Baseline, as well as the Levine area conveyance channel. Also hosted a restaurateur tour, really exciting, brought a group of prominent local restaurateurs for a tour of Levine along the Loop 202 corridor in an attempt to hopefully bring more quality sit-down restaurants to the area. In South Phoenix, we had several meetings to promote responsible and beneficial development along South Central, including a potential artist makerspace, affordable housing, and a local entrepreneur incubation space. And finally, in downtown, we partnered with Catholic Charities, CPLC, and the International Rescue Committee and hosted a refugee-focused hiring event at Burton Bar Library. Want to give a special thanks to Mayor Gallego and Bloomberg Philanthropies for helping make this possible. Next slide, please. On October 23rd, we hosted our second annual Pride on the Block. It was a spectacular event for our LGBTQIA plus community. We had drag performers, a live band, silent auction, great food and drinks, and live muralist. And happy to share that we were able to raise over $12,000 for the Southwest Center, at which they will be using every dollar of which to provide free healthcare for the community. Next slide. In October, we launched our District 7 TikTok. Shout out to our community manager, Jordan, for making it happen. I want to give a plug to District 7 PHX, the same handle as our other social media accounts for District 7 content, including upcoming events, humor, and more. And then finally, next slide, we're hosting two big events in December. First, alongside Councilman Garcia in District 8, we'll be hosting a Levine Public Forum to prevent some of the solutions that we've been working on. And we'll have representatives from city departments there. This will be hosted at Betty Fairfax High School on Monday, December 12th. And then later that week, please join us at our inaugural Jolly Jamboree. It's the season of giving, and in order to unite and empower communities across District 7, we're hosting a holiday festival to connect residents to the multitude of resources and services that the city provides. We'll have a Santa's workshop, DIY and crafts, food, music, raffles, city department resource fair, and more. This will be on Thursday, December 16th from 4 to 7 p.m. at MC Cash Elementary School, and residents can RSVP at bit.ly/District7 Jamboree, all lowercase. Thanks so much.
Thank you. We'll tee up our next PowerPoint and go to District 8.
Thank you, Mayor, and to Councilwoman Ansari, safe travels. Thank you for representing us out there. We had a busy last couple of months as well, as we're waiting for the PowerPoint to come up. So first, wanted to give a shout out to our staff who's been working really hard on a lot of our constituent cases. It's coming up on the screen. There it is. We've had 70 total cases last month, 32 cases closed, the folks we've been able to support. Moving on to the next slide. We've had 33 community events in the district just in the month of October. Some of the things that we can go on to the next one. We were really excited, and thank you, Mayor, for joining us, along with from the county, Bill Gates. Really excited to bring more affordable housing to the district. Salt River Flats is 192 units of affordable housing that's going to be on Jones and 16th Street. Really excited about it. We were also able to inaugurate the Soluna, which is 177 units of mixed income housing. I want to thank the mayor publicly for the work that she did on that, and we were able to see a beautiful new place and those 177 units come on board. We also really excited to finally do the Arizona Fresh groundbreaking, the Food Innovation Center that's coming to District 8, the old Rio Salado landfill that will become a great place for the community. That includes a community park, indoor farmers market, and a lot of great jobs and fun for the community. Had another great Sky Harbor cleanup. It's one of the most amazing events we have every year. Over 200 volunteers supported in that event. Had the Levine community meeting that Councilwoman Ansari alluded to continue to support and figure out things that are happening on the 51st Avenue and Baseline intersection. We had great Garfield movie night we showed Coco. Also great turnout, really appreciative. If we can go on to the next slide. Next one. One more. Almost there. Pizza was great. The Halloween pizza was amazing. Reminding folks we're having the town hall for the water meetings coming up, partnering with two great organizations to do the turkey giveaways, both on Saturday, November 19th. The first one at the American Legion on 16th Street and Broadway with the Heroes Ona Foundation. Been able to attend this every year. Amazing turnout, very organized event. You can drive up and get your turkey. And the second one it's the second annual, but it's the first time in District 8, the Guajoloton that's happening with Prensa Arizona, where they'll be giving away turkeys as well, gift cards, and a whole lot of music and fun. Two other events that are happening is the Healthy Fall Festival, Saturday, November 19th as well, and the Garfield movie night that's happening November 26th at Verde Park. And I think that's it for District 8. Thank you.
Any additional? Vice Mayor?
Yes, thank you. December 1st, in partnership with the Renaissance Phoenix Downtown, we will be kicking off our Give the Gift of Dignity Luggage for Foster Kids drive. All you have to do is drive by the hotel and donate a new or gently used luggage to the valet driveway. December 10th, with Alzheimer's Association Desert Southwest chapter, we will be having a day of information and education in Spanish for the community. The event begins at 10 a.m. and they will have fun, prizes, education, and information about the services at Wesley Center. December 17th, we are activating Salito Park with a multicultural holiday farmers market from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Come do your holiday shopping with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Want to welcome Julie Cree as our new city attorney. Excited to have you, although familiar to all of us. This past weekend, I had the privilege of being part of the annual Phoenix Veterans Day Parade. I want to thank all of our city employees who worked with our community leaders to make that possible, and special recognition to our Military Veterans Commission for their work on Veterans Day and year-round to make us a city that is a great home for veterans. This coming Friday, the Japanese Friendship Garden will celebrate its 20th anniversary of delivering residents a beautiful, peaceful place of respite in downtown Phoenix. The garden is welcoming representatives from Himeji, our sister city, to commemorate the occasion. So we want to congratulate them on a great 20 years and looking forward to what is ahead. I also want to congratulate the Fresh Start Women's Foundation on its 30th anniversary. The organization has a powerful effect on thousands of women working in a wide range of areas, including career development and escaping domestic violence. Wish the foundation the best in their years ahead. Today is the one-year anniversary of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also known as BILL, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. This federal law has been enormously important for infrastructure in the city of Phoenix and our entire country. I'm pleased to report that the City of Phoenix has been very successful in pursuing funds and coming up with great projects to work on in partnership with the Biden administration. We have already been awarded $48.9 million, and we have applications pending for $43.4 million more projects. Among the projects we've announced is the RAISE project, the pedestrian bicycle project across the Rio Salado that will encourage active transportation, join two parts of our city, and help us enjoy the Great River Corridor. Sky Harbor is making key investments, including ones that will help us arrive and depart on time. And we've had great transit-oriented development grants, bus grants, so we are doing wonderful work and are so thankful for the partnership with the federal government. And with that, seeing no additional updates, I will turn to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick budgetary update for us. We, on Monday, hit a milestone. 2 years in the making, we've been working on our GO bond program. As many of you know, we have not had a bond program since 2006. So we've been 16 years without a bond program. And one of the things that we have been working ardently on is trying to fix that. So back in 2019, Councilwoman Theda Williams formed a committee, an exploratory committee, to look at a bond program. Because of COVID, that was suspended. Then we brought that committee back, a fiscal capacity committee, back in early 2021. And so as a result of our work and the work of many of our staff across the organization, as well as our residents that have come and supported the effort by providing input, and our executive committee and our subcommittees on the bond program exploratory committees, we have wrapped up all of those meetings, and we will be recommending a package, or they will be recommending a package to the council for December 13th, totaling about $500 million. So we'll have more information as we move forward, but it's an exciting time for us because, again, it's been so long since we've had a bond program. And again, this is a program that we have pitched with the concept of not having to raise property taxes and the rate on our residents, and making sure that we can fit and afford it, not just for today, but into the future. And the plan is to have 4 of these over the next 20 years, which will invest over $2 billion worth of investments into the city of Phoenix.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, I've gotten several email messages and texts regarding the fact that some of the items did not make the bond program. So we will have the ability to discuss those items and possibly look at reviewing it and maybe making some changes. I just want to know that we have the ability to do that.
Mayor, members of the council, the subcommittee made a recommendation which is non-binding to the executive committee. The executive committee also makes a non-binding recommendation to this council. So it will be within your purview to make adjustments. The one thing that I would again say that the parameters that the executive committee, the fiscal capacity committee, and the subcommittees themselves were operating under were the economic assumptions that we have been disclosing for the better part of 2 years as we've navigated trying to put this together, which means again that we are trying to not have a property tax increase on our residents, which right now wouldn't make a whole lot of sense given that we are in the midst of an economic downturn. Even though for political reasons we haven't called it a recession, we've had 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic GDP, which constitutes a recession by definition. We've also had experiences where our yield curve is now the worst that it's been in 40 years from an inversion standpoint. So yes, you can make changes to the plan that is being recommended to you. I will say that every bond program that we've had, you don't fund everything. There's always things that will get turned away. The last bond program that we had in 2006 was an $873 million program. Right out the gate, we deferred $150 million of it because of economic conditions. It was too big, and the economics didn't support it. But at that time, there were $3.2 billion worth of requests, so we only funded about 1/4 of the entire request.
Appreciate it. I just needed a yes or no. Thank you.
And I wasn't sure, did you complete your report, City Manager?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, then we will go to the main event. And I will turn to our Vice Mayor, who leads our Economic Development and Equity Subcommittee and has been working on this item for quite a while, to introduce it.
So thank you to my committee and to my colleagues for allowing the committee to discuss about the cheap-let. The tool back in 2021 was important to many council members to help redevelop this across the areas of Phoenix. As the council gave direction to staff to meet with us individually, which we have, to find out how we could look at this tool to benefit our community, not just one certain area, but our community, the whole community. Over the past few months, we have discussed this item in our Economic Development and Equity Subcommittee, making sure we gave clear directions to staff on crafting of this policy to create a menu of options that can be considered for moving development forward. The new policy provides direction as to how we would like to use this tool to cause redevelopment both in the downtown and other redevelopment areas in the city. As we have heard over the past nearly 2 years, I can't believe it's been that long, this is the only redevelopment tool that we have available. one that can assist in bringing new development and helping to revitalize our older areas of the city. We have leveraged it well in downtown, and it has helped to bring new development into this area. And now, from our conversations, we would like to be able to expand it to use across the other redevelopment areas of the city. From what we have heard from the community and from you is we would like to be able to use it for affordable and workforce housing, to help preserve our historic buildings, create a destination entertainment district, provide for more public open space, connectivity and placemaking, help provide or enhance public parking, and to continue to add density where it's fit. The subcommittee worked to create two policies, one for the Central Business District and one for the other redevelopment areas around our city. We feel the policies created captured what was important to the City Council and to the community. The new policy includes meeting with the City Council prior to accepting an application for review. We will be involved very early in the process so we can make sure the projects meet what is important to each of us. It is included the contribution of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, or a minimum of 20% of the project, will need to be affordable or workforce housing. The subcommittee believes that this can help us as one tool in moving forward to solve the housing crisis we are facing now. As we discuss these new policies today, I look forward to the conversation on the future use of GIPLET in the city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And now we'll welcome our Deputy City Manager, Ginger Spencer.
Mayor Gallego and members of the City Council, we are here this afternoon to provide you with an update on the government property lease excise tax, also known as GIPLET or GPLET. Either pronunciation is correct. We have as our Vice Mayor Laura Pastor just mentioned, we have an existing GIPLET policy governing its use as an economic redevelopment tool within the city's central business district. And we're here today to talk about Council's direction to modify the policy to meet specific goals and objectives, and the use of a GIPLET in redevelopment areas outside of the central business district. We look forward to this discussion, and with me here today is Community and Economic Development Director, Ms. Christine Mackey, Deputy Community and Economic Development Director, Zandon Keating, and Assistant City Attorney, Thomas Stack. And with that, I'll turn the presentation over to Director Mackey.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer. Mayor, members of the council, we're excited to be here today to talk with you about the program that has been created, as Vice Mayor mentioned, by the Economic Development and Equity Subcommittee. Under her guidance and leadership in the subcommittee's work, we have what we think today captures quite a number of the items that we discussed with you, and in moving a program forward for your consideration. We thought we'd start with a little bit of history for those watching the program on TV, what a GIPLET is and where it came from. So I'm going to turn it over to Zandon Keating to go through kind of the GIPLET background. Zandon?
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Mayor Gallego, members of council. So the first question, of course, is what is a GIPLET? This is a program that was authorized in 1996 by state statute. It's governed by Arizona Revised Statute Title 42. It's really the only redevelopment tool that we have to focus on our redevelopment areas authorized by state statute. There's been two changes. The first was in 2010. That change limited lease terms to a 25-year term. Also increased the excise tax for leases that were authorized in the future from that the authorization date of that bill, and then also limited cities to have a single central business district and set restrictions on the size of a central business district. I'll talk in just a minute more about central business districts. The second change was in 2017. And that limited any leases that had included an abatement of the excise tax to 8 years. It also required cities to maintain their own database of GIPLET leases. and then also required cities to recertify any redevelopment area that overlaps a central business district every 10 years. You may remember the city of Phoenix went through that exercise when we reauthorized and recertified the downtown redevelopment area in 2020 in response to that change. So really what a GIPLET is it creates an ability to collect tax from private entities who are leasing government property. As you know, government property does not pay a property tax, so this creates the ability to for taxing jurisdictions to collect that fair share from those private entities. The quintessential example of that might be city-owned parking garages in downtown where there's private uses on the ground floor. This creates the ability for taxing jurisdictions to collect that excise tax from those entities as a substitute to the property tax. Without the GIPLET, without the excise tax, they would pay zero. Those private entities would pay zero as a result of their property tax. So, how do we use a GIPLET? There are really two ways. First is that taxing non-government uses on private or on government property, and then the second is as an economic development tool, as a redevelopment tool in our redevelopment areas. And I'll talk again in just a minute more about redevelopment areas. But it really helps facilitate revitalization in strategic areas to the city through the abatement of the excise tax or through the reduction of property taxes. So why does Phoenix use this program? Why do we go through all the trouble of implementing this? It's a very valuable economic development tool to the city. It encourages redevelopment areas in those areas, as I mentioned, those redevelopment areas. And I'll note, we haven't talked about redevelopment areas yet, but redevelopment areas are an area where City Council has designated them as in need of redevelopment. They're governed through statute 36 in the Arizona Revised Statute, so there's a number of restrictions in how we set them up and how we use them, but they're a really important designation for the city and how we look at those areas. The GIPLET also creates jobs. It increases spending. It also increases tax revenues in a number of ways that we'll talk more in depth about in a minute as well. It also it can help enhance property values in the area and helps capitalize on other public infrastructure investments that the city has made previously. It also generates taxes greater than the private or the prior property taxes that were paid on the site. So as we see redevelopment of some of these sites have been either very underutilized or maybe vacant for many years. And this creates, through a number of different ways, a much greater tax revenue and generation off the site than previous to the redevelopment. The great example, the best example that we're seeing today is the Arizona Center. So that resulted in, it was redeveloped in the early 1990s, as I'm sure everybody here knows. It was a $505 million capital investment into that site. The GIPLET lease ended in 2011, and immediately the day it came off the taxes, it saw we now see a $3.6 million property tax payment that is generated from that site. Prior to the GIPLET, in inflation-adjusted values, they would have paid $302,000, a little over $302,000 in property tax on that site. So it's a very significant increase in the property tax over time. So there are also two different ways as an economic development tool that we can implement this tool. There's two different sort of criteria within the city. The first is when we're within a central business district. So for a lease that's located in the central business district and also within a redevelopment area, there's certain benefits that come along with that. So our central business district within the city of Phoenix is sort of those traditional boundaries of downtown that we think of, 7th Avenue, 7th Street, McDowell, and a little bit down to a little bit north of Lincoln, and then also includes the Government Mall area. So that's what City Council has determined to be the city central business district within Phoenix. Most of that area also falls within the downtown redevelopment area. With the most recent recertification, there were some areas that came out, but the majority of it does fall within the redevelopment area. A project must, in order to be allowed to go through this process or authorized to go through this process, a project must improve the property value or the value of the development by 100%. We are required to provide taxing jurisdictions a 60-day notice of consideration of one of these requests. They are, of course, all subject to City Council approval. And then the lease terms that are available within that area, there's two options. One is an 8-year lease with full abatement of the excise tax. The other is no abatement, but up to a 25-year lease. So they would pay an excise tax over the entire course of that 25-year lease if that option was taken. The other opportunity is within a redevelopment area, but not within a central business district. So there are a total of 19 redevelopment areas currently throughout the city. They are at City Council's authorization, so City Council does have the ability to ask staff to look at other areas of the city where they might be appropriate. City Council also has the ability, of course, to take redevelopment areas away if they feel like an area has been redeveloped. Within those areas where it does not fall within a central business district, there's only one lease option, which is an excise tax of 25 years. There is no abatement option within those areas. Staff feels that this is really a great opportunity from a redevelopment standpoint outside the central business district to focus on workforce housing, on working on that missing middle. The way the rates are set up, it does provide it is a good economic tool for that use and could be a good opportunity to focus on those types of developments. So what has GIPLET done in Phoenix? We've seen a lot of benefits as a result of this program. There's quite a few jobs that are associated with it. We estimate approximately 17,800 jobs, almost $1 billion in payroll, and then there's also those taxes that are generated as a result. So we estimate over $3 billion in capital investment that we've seen realized as a result of that, and then also over $35 million in construction sales tax. Other jurisdictions have also seen a benefit. We estimate almost $100 million in benefit has been realized by Maricopa County and the school districts, then over $250 million by the state of Arizona. And then additionally, the city of Phoenix and other types of taxes has seen over $230 million in benefit. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Ms. Mackey to talk more about the policy.
Mayor, members of the council, your guidance to us was to work with the subcommittee and look at a new GIPLET policy, a policy that really addressed the changing needs and changing focuses of the area. And you directed us to meet with the city council offices to talk about the importance of this tool to each and every district and each and every district office, not just in the downtown area where we tend to use it today. From that guidance, what we received from you was you wanted not a one-size-fits-all. You wanted a menu of options for considerations available for you to look at. And you also wanted different considerations in the downtown area and the other redevelopment areas that Mr. Keating was just discussing, looking at two separate policies. Those considerations for development that we heard from you are on the screen in front of you. They relate loud and clear. The lion's share of comments we got was on affordable and workforce housing and on historic preservation, being able to save these buildings that are the fabric of the city of Phoenix. Looking at ways to maximize public parking, whether it's new or simply using tools to enhance the existing public parking. Creating public open spaces, looking at climate and heat readiness where new buildings are concerned, helping to create an entertainment district, a true destination entertainment district, bringing urban retail into the central city, looking at creating density where it's appropriate in the market, and also in the future when the office market comes back. And I'm a girl who's telling you the office market's death's been greatly exaggerated. It will be coming back, and looking at office and making that pencil here in the future. And as we met with each of the council offices, the things that we heard from you was you wanted us to promote projects that promoted pedestrian-friendly neighborhoods. How could you connect them? How could there be walkability to get between these new developments and the existing neighborhoods? You were very interested in creating equitable and diverse development, not just high-rises, not just luxury development, but development across the community. Looking at sustainability, how could these projects stand the test of time and not cause more issue? Councilwoman Ansari, of course, being at COP27 now, she's sitting in the middle of that. Looking at projects that support transit-oriented development for bus connections, for light rail connections, or for extensions of light rail to the farther west as we're ready to move forward. And projects that include open space, public art, and placemaking. We also heard from you, as I mentioned, those connections, but safe connections between the single-family residential and businesses and new development. Thoughtful transition from the existing single-family neighborhoods. In other words, not major development right up next to their fences where people are looking down into their backyards. Again, primarily that creation of affordable and workforce housing. But it was also very important to you that we meet with the council early in the process. Don't go all the way through the process and get to the end and then come to you with the project. You'd like to be involved from the very beginning to share what's important to you and your community as these projects move forward. With that, under the guidance of the Vice Mayor and the Economic Development and Equity Subcommittee, we have worked to create 2 policies, one for the Central Business District and one for the other redevelopment areas that exist in the city of Phoenix. We have a policy that engages with the council district early. We will not accept an application until we meet with the council district staff, meets with the council district and discusses the development opportunity with you and gets your guidance to move forward. And also using this tool to primarily solve the ongoing housing crisis that we see in Phoenix, in Arizona, and around the entire country. We were at a community meeting last evening, and there was a very robust discussion about what affordable or workforce housing really is. And so that was good guidance for us with the community about how to move forward and how to look at this tool. And then also following the goals that have been set forth by City Council in the meetings with you. So as we look at a GIPLET policy overview, our goals would be to stay consistent with the applicable zoning regulations, codes, guidelines, and adopted plans. In other words, don't bring a GIPLET that comes in and changes everything the communities work towards. Really capitalize on its location within a redevelopment area. How can we leverage this development to bring additional private development and really help to revitalize and bring additional businesses that the community has stated that they want? Create mixed-use developments with multifamily or redevelopment projects that really, again, capitalize on that location, and has quality design. You want these projects that receive this benefit, you want to make sure that they can stand the test of time, that they're very attractive, that they're not obtrusive into the community. The policy goals provide street-level amenities, promoting walkability, connection to mass transit where that's available, looking for a public benefit agreement that would be captured as part of a development agreement to move forward. What that allows us to do, if the development does not meet the goals as approved by City Council, it would allow City staff or City Council to immediately terminate the GIPLET program once we give them the opportunity to cure. If they don't cure, they would be terminated from the GIPLET program and would be moved on to full ad valorem property tax. It helps to encourage redevelopment of our retail and other community amenities. You, during the budget process, approved our vacant commercial storefront program. We have a number of developments that we've looked at with all of you where I swear there were parking lots and parking stalls that have never had a car park in them since 1960. And how can we leverage those massive seas of parking to bring redevelopment into communities, to create more density that then brings the development that the community wants? As we mentioned earlier, the new policy creates equitable and opportunity for equitable and diverse development, not just in downtown Phoenix, but the other redevelopment areas. And that safe and thoughtful connection between new development and existing single family. We talked about this a lot at the subcommittee meeting and what that meant. And what it means is not dumping individuals' families from our single-family neighborhoods out onto a sidewalk that's immediately adjacent to one of our busy arterial streets. How can the development open up without creating conflict for our communities, our neighborhoods, to open up so the community, their families, can come out of their neighborhood and safely come into that corner development without being exposed to traffic that's whipping by at a pretty rapid rate of speed, and makes it safe for families to go enjoy the new amenities. We had a robust discussion about the active ground floor experience, which the policy has now captured. The new policy, where it's applicable, it's activation of ground floor space and no cheating. It can't be the gym facility for a multifamily project that we then say is activation of the ground floor space when it's not open to the general public. So activation is very clearly stated in the policy that it can't be for the primary benefit of the private development. It has to truly be opened to the general public through all kinds of mechanisms. So whether it's what the community expects when you hear ground floor activation, whether it's restaurants, whether it's retail, it might be a gym, but it's open to the general public, such as a commercial gym might be, and it might be office space or other space that is available. The other thing that in our policy, it does lend to historic preservation and being able to preserve the buildings, bringing the GIPLET to bear where it makes sense, meaning that the money that it would cost to restore the building or to incorporate the building into the new development without leveling the historic building would be exponentially higher than they would be if they just leveled the building. A perfect example is the Fuller Warehouse in the Warehouse District. We used the GIPLET tool to save the building to incorporate the future development. When the developer first came to us, he was going to level the Fuller Warehouse. We had a good conversation with them and with the council of the district and offered the GIPLET tool. The benefit that they received from the GIPLET tool was about equal to what their loss would be to preserve the building, whether it was the roof, whether it was restoring the building, accommodating for the efficiencies that were there, that they lost now by having that building there. And it worked, and it's now fully under construction, and the historic building is now the entry into that particular building. And the policy now identifies the council's desire to create or maximize public parking, whether it's through new space or more often through utilizing technology to be able to maximize the existing parking. The GIPLET policy recommends creating true public open space, public art, and placemaking, a destination where the whole community wants to come to, not just the people who live there. But there will be greater restrictions on what we call open space. It needs to be area that's truly open to the general public. It is clearly marked and signed and advertised to encourage public use of the space. So not a dog park in the middle of an apartment building that we call open space that only the people in the apartment know to use. And then maintained and managed by private sector, by the development themselves, which would include the maintenance of that particular property. The policy also encourages for more density in downtown Phoenix to meet the general plan as approved by our citizens and the transit-oriented development plan. It provides opportunities to bring urban retail into downtown Phoenix, into the central city and our redevelopment areas. The policy creates an opportunity to create destination entertainment or an entertainment district. It is significantly focused on the benefits that it can provide to retail and small business. It's no longer a tool that's just meant for the big developers. Smaller developers can now use that to enhance small business. As was important to you, the policy has a focus on climate and heat readiness. Sustainability is important as part of the application. And again, as I mentioned, the policy does have an eye towards future office development. It does require that the developer make a minimum tax payment to third party, to all taxing jurisdictions if it falls short of the third-party economic impact model that was created. So when we take in an application, we have an economic impact model that tells us the revenue we can expect off the project. It's what we use as staff to analyze if the project really needs a GIPLET or if it can work on its own. We don't want to use this tool when a project can pencil all on its own. So through some of the most recent the issues that we've been through, we now incorporate in all of our development agreements moving forward, if that revenue is not met by taxes that are paid to the city, by leases that are paid to the city, by other revenues that are paid to the city, then there is a cash payment that's due from the developer. They are contractually obligated to pay the city and the other taxing jurisdictions the amount that they said in the economic impact model. That's what we judge everything on, and that's important that that's just not a guess. The primary thing we heard from the council districts that we talked to was your focus on workforce and affordable housing. This new policy requires a designation of a minimum of 20% of the units as workforce or affordable housing units, and I apologize, affordable is missing off of that line there. So on the record, that is affordable and affordable or workforce housing. It is also required on an annual basis for us to bring this policy forward, for council to look at the market trends at that time to see, do we bump it up? Do we move it up to 25%? Do we move it up to 30%? How is the tool working and where are we going? We'll bring it back to subcommittee on an annual basis. Or deposit to the city's Affordable Housing Trust Fund or other city benefits fund the percentage of property tax, of city property tax, that would otherwise be collected from the completed project. So in other words, if we looked at the central business district and the city should have received $100,000 in property tax during the term of the development agreement, the developer would be required to pay $200,000 to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. If they were to have paid $1 million, they put $2 million into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. If you're outside the central business district, that's 150%. The differentiating between the two is there is a complete abatement of property tax in the central business district. Projects in the other redevelopment areas immediately go on to an excise tax. They never have an abatement. They go on to an excise tax that in most times will be greater than the full ad valorem property tax that project is paying today. And the reason being is these are older properties that would be going into redevelopment that were built in the 60s or 70s or 80s, and their valuation over time has been diminished. And of course, as we know at the county assessor, property tax is based on valuation. So as the valuation gets lower, the property tax they pay gets lower. And the way that the GIPLET works, it's meant to replace, if not on the excise tax, make it actually greater. In the analysis that staff has done on looking at different projects, we could not find one where the project in excise tax would pay less than it would in full ad valorem property tax. The other item you'll see there is the other city benefits fund. The reason for that is when we spoke with some of you, a number of your areas where you'd like to see redevelopment are primarily affordable and workforce housing today. But there are retailers, there are businesses that your community wants, and they want to bring in. We've been in community meetings where they've told us the list of retailers they want, but the disposable incomes don't support the model of what those retailers need to come into. So some of you would like to use the fund in a public benefits fund. You might need new street lights. You might want to do an enhancement to a public park. You might want to fix a cracked sidewalk. You might want to do something else that's a public benefit in your community. Because what you're looking for in that case is market rate housing. And the reason you're looking for market rate housing is to drive up the disposable incomes to get the retailers in that the rest of your community has been asking for. It is important to note that the subcommittee did make an addition to the policy. It is at the city council's sole discretion as to whether the project brings in a minimum of 20% affordable or workforce housing or makes a deposit into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund or other public benefits fund. And then any public benefit fund that comes in would focus on the district and where the project is located. That was important to the community. They wanted to see that benefit as well. Mayor, members of the council, as we look moving forward, what we have also heard from you related to the GIPLIT, but not part of the policy, is you'd like to look at opportunities to bring redevelopment in some of these challenging redevelopment areas around the city. But more important, I apologize, as part of the GIPLIT, provide for workforce or affordable housing to help with the missing middle that we all hear about. The other things that we've heard, not related specifically to this policy today, but a number of you have expressed desire to create additional redevelopment areas in your districts. And staff, should the council choose to move this forward today, staff will set meetings with you, each individual council office, to talk about where you'd like to start in that. I do have a fund within economic development to move that activity forward with engineering firms. And in the future, we did have a robust discussion at the subcommittee meeting about reconsidering the size of the central business district. Our central business district today is approximately 2 square miles. Based on the 2010 legislation, it can be 2.5% of your city's municipal planning area. So we're 517 square miles, which means our central business district could be approximately 12 square miles. So we'll be coming back to the subcommittee in January to begin that discussion under the Vice Mayor's leadership and see where the subcommittee provides us guidance. And then, of course, stay in close communication with the City Council on any project moving forward. Mayor, members of the council, we do request your authorization to create 2 policies regarding the GIPLIT program, including the types of projects you're interested in and public benefits to be considered related to both the central business district and other redevelopment areas around the city. And with that, we're happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much for that great presentation. I will turn to our Vice Mayor for a motion.
I make the motion to create 2 policies regarding government property lease excise tax, including types of projects and public benefits to be considered related to the central business district and other redevelopment areas.
Second.
Second.
Wonderful. We have a motion and a second. We'll turn to Denise to see if we have any members of the public to address the council.
Mayor, we do not.
All right. Why don't I see Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. Very quickly, if Chris, you could put on the record what we do with school districts. I know that's been a concern of some of my constituents. I know you have addressed it. But quickly, if you could just kind of walk us through that, would be helpful.
Mayor, Councilwoman Stark, absolutely. Back in 2015, the City Council did request of staff of any GIPLITs moving forward that the developer meets with the school district and holds the school district harmless from any loss that they might have related to a GIPLIT being authorized in that particular district. And we have held that with each of the projects moving forward. And that is something that we will continue as we move forward.
Right. Great, I appreciate that. So thank you. And as you mentioned several times, Chris, we had a robust discussion. That's because the Vice Mayor and the Chairwoman of our subcommittee insisted that we have that conversation and that we meet several times to discuss it so that we were flushing everything out. And I think the most important thing you said was one size does not fit all. And I think we all recognize that in our discussion, our robust discussion. And I think staff, through our direction, came up with a very thoughtful policy. I want to thank staff for all the hard work you did, because I know we had more than one meeting. And I definitely want to thank the Vice Mayor for guiding us through this process. And I do think it is a good policy. And I do see that one size does not fit all. And clearly, as we start to see redevelopment in other parts of the city, like Metro Center, we need to look at how we can help Metro Center. And certainly it is vastly different than what we've seen in the downtown area. So I am very supportive of this policy. And again, I really want to thank the Vice Mayor for doing the heavy lifting. She kept us on track. I thought we could do it maybe in one meeting, maybe two. And she's like, no, Deborah, we're going to make sure that we really vet this so that we have the right policy for our city. So thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stark. Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I also want to thank Chris. Thank you so much for listening. I know we went back and forth on a lot of different things, and I'm excited to see a lot of these things being implemented. I think the number one for me was that not one size fits all. I think, we are growing. We're a very diverse city, and things are changing. So I'm excited to seeing that we are going to go with that type of policy where we will take it case by case, right? That's the case, that is what we're doing. So I'm excited to see that. And I also think that I like to be able to see what you're talking about, evaluate them based on their merits and their returns to the city and our residents. So I'm also happy to be able to see that, as well, that it's a menu of options that we are going to be looking at moving forward. I think that's exciting as well. I think that there's a lot of different things that we are going to be able to do with this policy, where we will be able to make sure that we make our streets a lot more walkable, that we hold everyone accountable to making sure that we are giving back to the community, as we do have a lot of people out in the community that when you talk about development, when you talk about bringing in new projects, there's a lot of people that get nervous. But I think when we talk about what is the return and what is it that we're giving back to them, I think that's also very exciting. But also as you mentioned, in my district is one of the only districts that does not have a designated redevelopment area. And I would ask that we begin looking into the benefits on RDA could bring to the area on all sorts of different investments. I know that you and I have taken a couple of tours and we've done a lot of good work together, and I know that you are wrapping your brain around that and what we can do when it comes to development, when it comes to jobs, and how can we start to create and attract an RDA in the district. One of my biggest goals is to making sure that people on the west side can live and work in the west side. So being able to capitalize on this, to making sure that we make that happen, I think is exciting. And right now, the Central Business District only covers a small area of the 12 square miles it is allowed to cover. I would support looking into how we expand the borders of the CBD to bring investment and benefits south and west of downtown, as well as towards the airport. I know that you mentioned that as well. So I'm very happy. I think this is one of the very first times that I think staff has really listened and really took into consideration all the different things that we wanted to see in a policy, and that we're not sitting here going back and forth and saying you need to change this or you need to change that. So Ginger, Chris, I know we spent a lot of time together I'm trying to figure a lot of this out, so really want to thank you guys for making this happen. Vice Mayor, thank you so much as well for all of your hard work on the subcommittee and making sure that we all followed through with what we said we were going to do, so thank you so much for that. Thank you, Mayor.
We'll go to Councilwoman Ansari and then Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I will join my colleagues in thanking Chris, Ginger, and the team for coming up with this. As one of the members of the Economic Development and Equity Subcommittee, it was really helpful that we had so many conversations about this and really had the opportunity to develop a thoughtful policy. So thank you as well to the Vice Mayor, of course, for facilitating that and for making sure that happens. We're very grateful. I think it's come to a really good place. I think I especially love the fact that this policy promotes sustainability, the fact that it has a specific mention around climate and heat readiness, transit-oriented development, and open space that goes hand in hand with livability and affordability. And I'm excited that we'll continue to have opportunities to preserve our historic buildings, of which we have precious few. So that's it for me. I've asked all of my questions over the course of the past 6 months throughout the subcommittee process. So appreciate everybody's hard work on this, and I'm excited to vote yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the subcommittee folks for all the work and the staff for bringing this forward. Had a couple questions. In regards to coming up with, what the community benefits are, is there going to be a recommended community process or standards or checklist that we're going to be able to say, okay, we went through a certain process? I'm making myself clear.
Mayor Councilman Garcia, what we would do with work with each of the council offices to be able to capture that in the development agreement so it has real teeth on it. If they don't meet those requirements, then they would have, and they'd be given a chance to cure, and then they would actually lose their GIPLET. So what we'll do is we'll work early on at the very beginning with the council office, and you know your communities better than anyone else, to put that community benefit, the public benefit, into the development agreement directly.
And with the things that are on here, they're recommendations. Let's say we didn't think about something that's a public need somewhere. That could be added, right? Or is there a defined list of only things that can happen through there?
Mayor Councilman Garcia, no, it's not a defined list. Each of the council districts is so diverse and has so many different needs. To your point, we wanted to make it so that based on what the need is at that time, that it is something that could be considered and wrapped into the development agreement as that public benefit.
Thank you. So I think the examples that we're given or what we're thinking is usually with private development. I know we too have an affordable housing plan. We also have different projects that we may be a part of as a city, either co-developing or at some point we developed and maybe developing in the future, but also there's nonprofits that might be developing things. Is this also available for those types of uses?
Mayor Councilman Garcia, I don't want to set a false expectation. So first I'll tell you why, and then I'll say, yes, it is absolutely available to everybody else. The city and most nonprofits don't pay property tax by right through the county assessor today. So there will be projects that just don't need it because they don't pay property tax. Those that are leveraging affordable housing tax credits, those that are leveraging those others, absolutely, it would be available to those projects. And they would even get a higher credit because they'd be 100% workforce housing, affordable housing.
So it can be combined with others, like other types of programs that are out there?
Oh, absolutely. It could be part of a capital stack that makes these housing projects work, that could help to solve the housing crisis. Absolutely.
And then for the affordable housing piece, so one piece is a 20%. How long does that remain? Does it have to remain for for a certain period, or how long is the 20% there?
Mayor Councilman Garcia, if it were to be in a redevelopment area where they use the 25-year excise tax, it would be for the full 25 years. So it's the term of the development agreement. In downtown, their benefit is the abatement of property tax in the central business district for an 8-year period. So we have it follow the term of the development agreement. And I think that's why the subcommittee so thoughtfully put that it could also be the contribution to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, because then that never goes away. That's owned by the city forever.
Okay, and last thing, to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and I don't know if this is for Titus, I think it's yet to be determined a lot of the things that could be done, but can you give some examples? I know there's a pretty good example of a development in South Phoenix where there was an archaeological test that was needed and there was funds for that. But can you give some examples of how this fund can be used to bring more affordable housing beyond just giving money to a project?
Absolutely. Mayor, Councilman Garcia, you made a perfect representation a year or so ago. I lose track of time, I apologize, but a year or so ago, we did have an affordable housing project in South Phoenix that hit basically the archaeological mother lode of remains on a particular property. So they worked with the tribal communities to be able to go through their reinterment process. But that, when you're working on an affordable housing project, your margins are very narrow in what your profit can be. And so we were able to leverage a reinvestment fund that you all have oversight over, that we were able to participate in public infrastructure, which helped offset the cost, the public infrastructure cost we took away from the developer, and they focused their money on the reclamation of the site and the remediation of the site. So it could be here from downtown and to the south to the mountain, from Pueblo Grande here to downtown, is a very rich archaeological area, and so it could be used on that front to offset the costs. Could be on infrastructure. We see, as in these older areas of the city, some of the infrastructure is 100 years old for water pipes or streets that are incomplete or need to be expanded, and being able to take those burdens off the affordable housing developer by leveraging the GIPLET, which gives them a different revenue source to be able to focus on that public infrastructure, is a good one as well. Some others we've had where we have parks that are immediately adjacent to some of our housing developments that are in redevelopment areas that have either fallen into disrepair or they've not expanded or they've not been developed. We could leverage the tool to be able to provide it so the developer could make those investments through that public benefit into those areas and then see the benefit from the GIPLET on that front. So it can be used to benefit the community in so many different areas.
And then final question, I promise. And I don't know if it's this is why Tom's up here, maybe it's a legal question, but I know GIPLETs in the past had been challenged. And so with all this addition, with all the work that was done by you all on the committee, do we feel confident that this is kind of the proof we need for the community benefit side?
Mayor, Councilman Garcia, I think it's also important to note that the challenges that we've had to GIPLETs in the past have targeted specific projects, not the tool itself, in being able to leverage that moving forward. It was specific projects that were adjudicated in court or moving forward. So we have taken what we've learned through that process, and that is now included in our GIPLET policy. That's where you see the language about the contractual obligation of the developer to pay what the economic impact model shows they will pay, what the city and other taxing jurisdictions are expecting to receive. If they don't receive them, a cash payment is due from the developer. So we've tried to learn from the process we've gone through, from what the judge has said, and have incorporated that into this policy. So while we can never make ourselves bulletproof, we're doing our best to learn and move forward. Tom, do you have any other comments?
No, Chris, I think that sums it up. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you all so much. I'm definitely supporting the policy, and again, thank you everyone for all the work you did on it.
Councilwoman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I too would like to thank Vice Mayor as well as the committee members and taking us through this process. And thank you, Chris and Zandon, for all the work. It is really, I think, a very comprehensive plan of options, and I too am glad that it's not one size fits all. It was one of my concerns being a new council member when we embarked upon this journey as well. And I'm also excited to have the opportunity to look at where we need additional redevelopment areas in our city, so we can maximize the use of this and bring the kind of development we've seen in downtown to other parts. So again, thank you so much to everybody for all of your hard work. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Vice Mayor.
Chris, on slide 12, it says engage with the city council district early. I think it was also meant for city council members too. It wasn't just the district member. It was making us aware of when a GIPLET was coming. So I don't know if we changed the language or you'll just note it.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, we can make the adjustment to that language in the policy, and then we'll note it for ourselves as well, but we'll make the adjustment in the policy. That was your direction, was the council, the entire council.
And then my other piece in that, I was thinking about it this morning. When notifying us, will we know who are all the partners engaged in the process of the GIPLET?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, yes. We will ensure that you know. The ones that we know, sometimes there are partners that we're not privy to or others that would come in, but absolutely we'll make sure that we're able to reveal to you everyone. And we can ask the developer for their full slate
Yeah.
of partners.
Yeah, because I think that helps us also. We've been in certain situations where we're not sure who all the partners are, and then when it becomes a little testy or push-pull me, all of a sudden we're like, well, how are they involved, or who's this person? So I think it's important for us to know up front all the players at the very beginning.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, we will duly note it, and we will get that list on any that come in and have those with us.
And then I'm going to go to Councilman Garcia's question. I didn't think about it, but I think it's really wise in the sense of what is the public process on the community piece. And how I interpret it was more of, do we have, I don't want to use this term, do we have a process on how we engage on the community benefit side? That's what I was listening and hearing. And so it would be nice to lay out that process. Or you can make it very general or very prescript, however, but that there is a process in this piece, because I think it's very important on the community benefit side, so that we're able then to say, no, we're gaining this.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, as part of our process, the developer and our team are required to go out to the city, out to the community,
Okay.
and meet with them, talk to them, get their guidance, feedback, what's important to them. So there will be public meetings.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. So I want to thank all my colleagues for all the great work that went into this. We did have lively conversations, but I always believe that in having great dialogue, we come to great solutions. So I want to thank my colleagues for putting the effort and giving me all the different types of feedback so that two great policies could come through. So thank you.
Roll call.
Ansari,
Yes.
DeCiccio, Garcia,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
O'Brien,
Yes.
Stark,
Yes.
Waring, Pastor,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 7-1.
We are adjourned. Thank you.